Welcome, welcome back to the Inside Hustle interview series where you will find unfiltered soul truth, where we peel back the veil, drop into conversations that activate, awaken, and align us with truth beyond what the linear interpretation is of this reality. And today's guest is someone who's a very dear friend of mine, Raeline Brady. And I've been wanting to record this conversation with Raeline for a really long time because she is an absolute powerhouse in the galactic and transformational and cosmic fields. She's a Gaian midwife, a star law keeper, planetary healer, and vibrational essence developer. She has spent decades walking the earth, working in the unseen realms. I've been with her at sacred sites myself, and she's always guided into different places, to do this incredibly unique and powerful work about the energetic architecture of this planet. And so we're going to be, going beneath the surface and dialing into a bit of this today, all about, what's going on in this reality at this time from this unique perspective. So welcome, Raeline.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. Wow, that was a beautiful introduction. Thank you. I'm sitting here listening, going, wow, yeah, okay. So welcome, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you so much for inviting me. And congratulations on this beautiful podcast and sharing portal that you've created for all of us. Really beautiful. Thank you, Joanna, very much.
My
I
pleasure.
appreciate it.
I was just wanting, I have all these amazing conversations with incredible peers and friends and, just people who work in this field or who are in this leading edge of this consciousness shift on the planet. And I thought, why aren't we bringing some of these conversations out of, these intimate situations and bringing it into more where people can access it and hoping it'll obviously benefit and create aha moments and activate people. So,
Yeah.
yeah, and I think, it is such an interesting time on the planet. I am very excited. There's a lot of people in fear. You could look at it and be like, what is going on here? It's a bit of a shit show. I wanted to ask you because you have incredibly amazing ways of describing what is going on way behind the linear stuff playing out and what the influences are in this global reality, the different kind of forces that are at play, and what is actually just really happening here. Like, some people think we're in this spiritual, or like, verbalize it as we're in a spiritual war, it's dark versus light, there's a big battle going on. Other people are just sort of like, well, this is just the normal, planetary cycles. We're moving into the golden age. So, of course, we're in this transition. A lot of other, I think there's just so many different perspectives on it. And I would just be really interested to hear what your one is and how you describe what's really truly going on here at this time.
Wow. Well, yes, there are so many layers to this.
Yes.
And there are so many layers within the illusory play of this, which is really key to hold remembrance of. That, there's the physical reality, what we're, most of us, when I speak now, I speak for the whole of the collective of humanity on the earth. I'm not speaking for individuals who are awakened to certain dimensional aspects of themselves and realities that are interweaving within, their personality self here on 3D, well, not 3D anymore, Earth. There's a lot going on, and everything is valid within. It's like a jigsaw puzzle. I give that analogy of a jigsaw puzzle, and once you've sort of completed one jigsaw puzzle, then that jigsaw puzzle becomes a piece in another jigsaw puzzle and another jigsaw puzzle. But this is all within a universal sense.
Yeah.
And it's, we have to understand, and a lot of people consider spiritual or subtle material to be spiritual. and it's not.
Mm.
And this is one of the biggest things of getting caught up. Subtle material is spiritual if it's connected to source and you're connected to your source code. But in and of itself, subtle material can be flung about all over the universe with our interactions and our reality pinpointing with duality, reality, and polarity pull. So the thing of this time is to really bear witness and to file things for now and to be the observer in the field, to remain with true self no matter what.
Mm.
You know, if we're not in our bodies, who or what is?
Absolutely.
If we're not in these realms as true self, then, you know, we're easily got at. So we've come here to do something very unique, and that is to bring our source code. And what is that? That is knowing that we are part and parcel of the divine. False ego is competing throughout all the subtle material dimensions with the God force. True ego knows that it's part and parcel of source and is working with source, not working with personality self and false ego, faulty intelligence, faulty mind. And so even by intending this with sincere heart, we get to see the levels in which we fall into separation. Now, something is happening on this planet which is very unique. We're doing what's not done before in this body. You know, in Lemurian times, the bodies were very etheric. In Atlantean times, we had a different architecture. You know, our innate system was very different. But we're bringing the mana down from heaven through this body in this density in a way that's never been done before. And the planet, you know, we're part and parcel of our Mother Earth. We're made up of her same elements. It's natural that we've signed up for coming along for the ride as she adjusts her spin and she reconfigures and metamorphosizes her elemental and molecular makeup, her structure. If we're here, we're made up of the same elements. So we're going through the same process. And it is so unique that our stellar brethren are looking down with such awe and wonder, you know, all the demigods and all these beings on all dimensional levels are looking down, and they're actually lining up to take birth here now. This is why the babies and the toddlers, and they're all coming in wired up, ready to go. Because it doesn't matter who you are, whether you've been a great Mahatma or an amoeba, everything and everyone is connected with the divine source. And not a blade of grass moves without the sanction of the divine. And this is very reassuring. When all, as you say, the shit show is going on, and we can hold that focus that no one is forsaken here. No one.
Yeah, I love that. It is so easy to get, I think, caught up in the drama of this reality playing out and all of it. But, even during these previous times of challenge, like specifically in COVID, for me, I had to keep bringing myself back to that divine knowing, keep bringing myself back to, hold on a minute, no, this is all in some way, shape, or form a a translation of the divine playing out in some way for everybody, actually, and no matter what your experience was during that, and it continues now to this day with what is going on. And I think people get really down on the planet, being like, oh God, we're still warring and, wanting to blow things up, and there's still starving people and all of that kind of stuff. But at the same time, nothing that is not without the touch of the divine, or it wouldn't be taking place on this planet at all. I mean, the divine intelligence runs through absolutely everything. Yeah.
It's hard for us to comprehend in duality reality and polarity pull how these things are serving.
Mm. Yeah.
It's not an easy pill to swallow.
No.
And we have to also understand that, there's not just this, once we hit 5D, that everything's going to be heavenly and beautiful. No, we know from ancient scriptures, we know from the galactic histories and the galactic wars, that these leelas, these pastimes, go on throughout all dimensional levels.
Mm.
Even the greatest beings that accumulate so much subtle material power within this universe, if they're not connected spiritually, then they've got to go through exactly the same stuff that we do, yet on a more subtle detect level.
Mm.
And this is why we see, the Vedas and the Mahabharata talking about all these wars on dimensional levels, mainly, and playing out on dimensional 5, 6, and 7. That nobody's not accountable for action reaction cycles within this universe. This is why it's really important, doesn't matter where you are, to remain responsive to our Earth Mother's calling and see where we react,
Mm.
because our reactions are our contributions to our planetary fields and forms. And so therefore, it doesn't matter who you are, in what dimensional level, responsibility and accountability is valid on all levels at all times. So I would like to say that, they're us. They're us going through the same set of lessons and teachings.
Mm.
When we move beyond linear time, we start to recognize ourselves, the dimensional facets of selves, our codes of operation, our tool sets, our spiritual tool kits that we have, where we can bring information and tools from other places that we are simultaneously interfacing with Raeline and Joanna here.
Mm.
And so everyone on the planet has recognized now that time is not what it used to be. Everybody, blind Freddie can see and deaf Danny can hear that nature is not the same. The time in which we are experiencing reality has already shifted dimensionally. Most of us are already in 5D. And yet here we are, living our lives. We thought it would be so different moving to 5D.
Mm.
I mean, most people are on 4D. Most people are aware of nature and connecting with trees and the ocean and crystals and all our beautiful kingdom collectives on the planet. Most people now are doing this. They're not disconnected anymore. A lot of people are moving out of lower astral 4D into the mythical realms of upper 4D, which is a great springboard.
Mm.
So a lot of work has been done, and pats on the back to us all, because it hasn't been easy emotionally, mentally, physically. It's been really tough on the nervous system. And what is the nervous system? The nervous system are our rivers of consciousness, cosmic consciousness. So we can see there's a lot going on with the Schumann resonance, the solar flaring. But what is this? It's a direct response to our consciousness interfacing with cosmic consciousness and telling, putting out the call, I'm ready to receive more. And not only am I ready to receive more, I'm ready to relay more, because it is a give and take with this. And we only get what we're ready for, no more, no less. That's individually and collectively.
Mm. That's beautiful. And, these different systems and energetic grids and these, planetary mechanisms that you work with in the course of your gifts and abilities that as part of your, codex or your blueprint that you have in this reality right now. How would you describe how that works to others?
For me, the first thing I say is all that is ever required is to show up. If a place in nature is calling you, or a place that you know is connected to the song lines of our earth, the ley lines, the grids, the dragon notes, heed the call. Because for me, in my experience and the experience of others that I journey with, there are places on the earth that we have left keys and codes for this time. And when we go to these places, we unlock. The star clocks and the star maps and mirrors don't just exist within the celestial realms. They exist within our planetary body, and they exist in us. So when we go to these places, it's like a locking mechanism that goes lock, unlock, lock, unlock, lock, unlock, all the way down. So we have this in us, and this happens. And when you consciously work with your innate star clock, it ups the ante. Now, when I came in with this, so I've had to find language and expression for the things that came naturally to me. As soon as I could talk, I was prophesizing about certain places that my parents would say, no, we've never been here before. And I would explain and describe everything coming up with the place we were headed to next. And later in life, my mother reminded me when I told her a story of going to this place, and she said, oh, that's the place, when you were really little in the back of the car and saying, oh, we've been here before. And I said, no, we've never been here before. And of course, it's the Lemurian coastline, next stop, Antarctica. So this is the Great Ocean Road in Australia, along the southern coast and the Southern Ocean. And you know, there's places where we leave these keys and codes of remembering. And when we move back into these places, we put back the dismembered parts of self. That is what the remembering is.
Mm.
Putting back these dimensional facets of self
Mm.
so that we may best serve our bodies and the body of our beloved Gaia Galactica.
Yeah. And I think a lot of people get frustrated with this amnesia of the experience, the fact that we have left these bits and pieces to activate in a certain specific time for us and our unique purpose on this planet. And sort of like, people can refer to it as because of other forces outside of us or all of that kind of stuff. Or, I mean, as far as my experiences, it's very much time coded in my own personal galactic mission in a way that that stuff comes to the fore and things happen and I'm on that journey, although I have been for most of my life, I guess. But how do you describe the how we got to the dismembered place or the place of this amnesia, or how we've come into this reality set up like that for a reason at the in the whole grander scheme of things, I guess.
Yeah, well, the first part I will speak to is that we came here to experience separated consciousness, to know what it was like to be separate from the divine. Though in reality, we never really can be. But we wanted to know what it would be like to lord it over material nature.
Mm.
We wanted to know what it would be like to be little gods and goddesses, demigods. And so that starts the falling from consciousness. And here we are here. This is, when I say the demigods are lining up to take birth here at this time, I mean this factually, not as metaphor, because this is the place where you can experience the extremes. There is hardly any roller coaster relief of duality reality if you are not source connected.
Yeah.
So moving through, no right or wrong or judgment,
Mm.
the good, the bad, the ugly, and the beautiful, we wanted to experience the gamut of what it is to be on every level and layer of disconnect from source
Mm.
in order to know it for ourselves. Self-actualization brings self-realization. The whys are actualized. And when you say that about the frustration, I'm finding that a lot of the main activational triggers occurring now is through what is deemed seemingly negative experiences happening to people or from within themselves, that they're starting to take accountability. Because if we don't go through these things, we're never going to get to that point of asking, who am I? What am I doing here?
Mm.
What is my relationship to material and subtle material nature? What is my connection as part and parcel of source, of the God force? Now, whatever you may call that, we're talking about the highest aspect. And so these are triggers to awaken. And sometimes we have to go through our dark night of the soul a few times over to really get to that humility. You know, the divine, they say that in the spiritual reality, the closest thing is the purest relationship of mother. That feeling of mother in its purest state. So it's not conditional, our relationship with source, with the divine, with the God force. So therefore, we're sent out to explore. The children are sent out to explore. Every level. Go play in my creation. That's unconditional love. Not the rules and regulations and you must do this and you must do that and you must have this enforced. Yes, there are natural laws, without a doubt. Yes, there is the law of one. But these are when we go too far off track that we can bring ourselves back. And so basically we've been all over the universe on a merry jig. And then we arrive here and we're like, I'm so done. And it's like, but are you really done? Are you sure you're sure? You want to go down there? Are you sure you want to go down and do it like that? Okay, I'm sending you. But you will always have set up within your auric structure the connection. No one is ever forsaken, and no one is ever really in that separated consciousness. It's something that we choose as a free will deal. We have free will, but you know, that free will is actually minute. So we're better off going with divine will and save a lot of hassles. And I will say too that, you know, there are great sages. You know, it's written about extensively in Bhagavatam and all the Vedic scriptures that there are great sages that have offended. And rather than go through another nicey way of connection for a few million years in our concept or construct of time, they would rather go and do one life as, or a couple of lives as a demon to get back to spiritual reality and learn what it is to be separated in, as I say, the good, the bad, the ugly, and the beautiful. Because even within the hellish realms, there are heavenly looking places. So, but as I say, subtle material is not spiritual. If you're not connected to source, then you're still running around doing the merry jig. And so this is, we first have to understand what is material, what is subtle material, and what is spiritual. And you don't have to go off anywhere else geographically to attain it. That's the important thing to remember. Dimensional realities are cool. They're a step in the right direction if we're source connected and holding that consciousness. Then we can influence and benefit every dimensional level. And that has been the trick on us. We have held so much beautiful architecture, divine architecture, that, you know, yeah, we were tricked. We were tricked. And we went along with that story. But a lot of people are, you know, are freeing themselves up from any hoodwinking. And as I say, amazing lessons and teachings, self-actualization, bringing self-realization. That's a wisdom teaching. And so as we raise up our frequencies and we hit a certain frequency band where things didn't go so right in other timelines, for example, Atlantean timelines or Lemurian timelines with, you know, Lemurian Holocaust, you know, the Atlantean fall, which was, you know, a great severing of our beautiful connection of frequency, subtle materially, what we might refer to as golden age. But we have all those codes and keys in our cellular memory, within our DNA, and within our RNA. Our RNA is our inner song lines that are interfacing with the technologies on our planet, the beautiful architecture on our planet. And so when we hit a certain frequency band, we might move into a triggering of what's called catastrophobia, where we go, oh, last time I did this, it didn't work out so well for me. And, once I hit this frequency. And so there's a triggering of remembering that creates a catalyst for freeing up. And so a lot of people now are in that space.
Mm.
And starting to recognize that they can go with their frequency band, their innate frequency band. They can go with their innate timeline, which is illusory if not source connected. So a lot of people are in the underworld now without the benefit of true self, their own personal underworld, and connecting in with the planetary underworld. And so this is a rite of passage for being on the earth work. We're here to do some work. We're not here to just play forever. And it is like a graduation in a sense. A lot of us are moving through a graduation and a rite of passage for being on the earth now. And even not just fulfilling their earth missions and soul contracts, but surpassing this and actually signing up for new ones.
Mm.
And that is what's really blowing the minds of our galactic brethren, is that we are really we're doing the work.
Yeah, it's quite amazing. I've certainly felt a gigantuan leveling up in my personal experience of all of that. Um, and and just the level of knowing is so unshakable, and my surrendering to divine will over personal will at greater levels than ever before. And it does make an incredibly huge difference to our personal experience in the basic human levels on this planet. And it's bloody exciting. Fantastic. I mean,
It's incredible. It's
yeah.
incredible. And the levels of acknowledgement and accountability, and that's the thing that I mentioned about the reactivity, as opposed to the response
Yeah.
ability.
Yeah.
Being able to respond to the Earth Mother's calling, being able to stay in that space where the triggering doesn't pull you a million miles away in a blink of an eye from what you're holding, with being able to be responsive at all times. And that, again, I'll bring it home. It's the bearing witness and, the remaining the observer of ourselves, not everything outside, ourselves.
Mm.
And that every little trigger, everything is a consciousness opportunity to up level.
Absolutely. I love
Every little trigger, every little trigger.
it.
And when we see, when I was talking earlier about our nervous system through the solar flaring, I mean, that's consciousness. That's consciousness uploading and downloading. And we're switching on our transponders. So everything that we're getting is a direct response to our consciousness streams.
Yeah.
And our nervous system is mirroring solar consciousness through the solar mind. And what we've just had in this solstice and what is going to happen now between solstice and the 8-8 gateway, which for me, the 8-8 gateway is always the reset of going up a spiral in the evolution of the consciousness, of galactic consciousness, of moving out of linear scope into spherical consciousness, into expanded consciousness, to be able to take more moving from panic to panorama,
Mm.
and through, we've got this Pan, the god of nature. So it's nature. Nature's on steroids. If COVID and the lockdowns taught us anything, it was to see how quickly the earth can rejuvenate and regenerate itself, you
Mm.
know, if we're in the right mindset and connected. So many people were in nature. And so many people have continued to get out into nature more.
Mm.
And they're receiving the keys and codes. It's through the divinity held in nature that we're able to up level. And how do you start? It's okay to talk about the more complex stuff around Stargate technologies and grid work, but just act locally, think globally, with starting with a tree that
Mm.
catches your attention. It might be in the garden, it might be in a local park.
Yeah.
Go connect with a local body of water, whether it be a lake or a river, a creek, the bay, the ocean. Go connect in. Get familiar with what it is to be with these beings. This is the whole thing right now, because we're not in 3D or 4D anymore. The inanimate world is reanimating
Mm.
through us. In other words, we're opening up our consciousness to that which was already animate,
Absolutely.
and we're reanimating. We're reanimating, and we're reanimating so much connectivity with the realms, as I said, the mythical realms, through dragons and giants, and it's so in the consciousness. The mer people, the unicorns, Pegasus, all this is part of our woven into our galactic DNA.
Mm.
And it is through the mythical realms that we're, as I said, we're able to springboard.
Yeah, I've certainly developed more of a conscious understanding of the beautiful nature beings actually as direct representations or energetics, galactic energetics, cosmic energetics, actually, that they are containing. And I think
Absolutely.
many years ago, I had a
Yes,
very
exactly.
limited understanding of it as more natural or earthy, or, like a very one dimensional understanding of nature, I guess is what it is. And now it's just blown open over, I guess, the last decade, having incredible experiences. I mean, the level of information that some of these stones are carrying, these stone beings that are just mind blowing on a galactic and cosmic level, and to being able to spend time understanding that that's where we tap in to receive that information is just so cool. And I do feel that it's a free resource, right? It is absolutely everywhere. Anyone can get to any bit of nature, even if it's connecting with an orchid in your lounge. That's all you can get if you're in the middle of a high-rise city. That is as good, like it's all got it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The first thing I ever connected to, that was nature, that brought through an amazing discourse course, was a hydrangea that I picked and I had in a little single vase. And, that was just from the garden. And I was in my home and it just started speaking with me. And it was like, hang on, I've got to get pen and paper and write all this down.
Mm.
And that's the most easiest and simple way to connect, is to get good old fashioned paper and pen, sit under a tree or, sit on the grass and automatic write.
Yeah.
Get the mind out of the way, the 3D mind,
Mm.
and open up your mind gate to brain load. We only hear about brain overload, but in every moment, in every, not just waking moment, in every moment, we are brain loading, and our brains are connected in with the brainwave patterning of our Earth Mother. And it is through nature that we connect. I've just been in Ireland, and the She, who are considered the fairy folk within the inner realms of Ireland and Tirnanog, the other name of the She, spelled Sidhe, is that they are the star people or the star beings.
Yeah.
And some of the first connections for me was in forest groves of trees, circles of trees, being connector points for star transmissions, and also stones in forests that were connector points,
Yeah.
or nodal points for star transmissions. And at Solstice, I was just on a very dear friend's property, and she's just bought this amazing acreage with sacred men's and women's sites. But the person before her, it's installed a Stonehenge on the property, and I was getting all sorts of configurations with different star constellations through that henge. And so the stones aren't just speaking now of the star law. They're actually singing.
Yeah.
They're singing the star law awake. And it is when we go and we sing to the stones. And you go right up close and you'll hear the whole stone reverberating, especially if it's something like, basalt or these stones that are highly, highly resonant and have high quartz content. Yeah.
I think
And they ring.
I think I
They
had
ring like a bell.
that guidance in my first book that I recall it from channel messages that I needed to sing to the stones. And it's, yeah, my brother would make fun of me being like, what? Oh God, here she goes now, hippy dippy. But it is how the activation of energetics work and how you
Absolutely.
correspond, and that from soul song to soul song, from in between the beings, whether we are experiencing them in a material or more dense iteration or not, it's still, everything is actually vibrating energy. So of course it's going to connect in the way of like energy meeting energy in a most miraculous way.
Beautiful.
Mm.
Mm.
Yeah, I'm actually called to create I've had memories when I've gone to parks. What you talk about in the stones and the trees being there, I was flashed back to operating sacred ceremony in a totally different time, space, reality, and being in that space conducting ceremonial proceedings and activations and all sorts of stuff from centuries and centuries before. And I remembered working in that way with the energies of stones and trees. And, in this new property that I'm moving into, become a kaitiaki or a guardian of, it's very much
Yes.
calling to this more intimate work and working with these energetics in a far deeper way, rather than running off on tour into all different places, which I still love to do. But I was really hearing that call, as you say, of the mother of Gaia, in stepping forward into that space in a more powerful way and working in depth with the site, ongoing, and then also doing my tour stuff as well. And I have already had a download of how I need to create a stone circle in that space and connect it into various different energetics. And I mean, it's already been told to me what I need to do. So I'm like, okay, I need to go and visit the rock man.
Beautiful. Yeah. And what's been really calling me in the last week or so is these amazing giant spheres all over the planet. One of our we have Earth mission crew that I take gatherings around the world, but I do the Earth mission crew, which is more working with the technical stuff regarding stellar and Earth configurations. And one of our team members has been at the Bosnian pyramids for the last 2 weeks, and also with the spheres. And they're all over the world, but there's one in, it's called Moeraki. Do you know that one?
Oh yeah,
Moeraki.
but down by Dunedin, I think the Moraki boulders.
It's yeah. It's in the, so these are really coming online and singing to each other. They're all around the world in different places. And yeah, you've got one there in Aotearoa. And it's really been strong for me the last week, that the boulders there, those stones, spheres.
Yeah, they're very, very round. They're like,
Yeah.
yeah, they literally are spherical stones on the beach, just out of Dunedin.
And the composition is not just from earth minerals and elements. And they're like they're molten. They're like they've been melted stone.
Yeah.
So it's ancient technology. And is it from off-planetary? Not necessarily. We are moving back into that consciousness where we're remembering the spiritual technologies of our planet. And, mostly it's about consciousness. But yes, we can also say a lovely side effect of that is that it's free energy as well, and that we're connecting in with these free energy power points all over our planet.
Yeah. I mean, the pyramids that you speak of in Bosnia, I've always wanted to visit those, but I mean, I think I feel into various pyramid energies all over the place, actually, that are kind of hidden under different bits of Gaia and in these various different places, and they're sort of everywhere. And even I think it's so interesting about the Moreki boulders, being there in plain sight is old technology there that through our illusional linear understanding of this reality, we are like, oh, it's just a stone boulder on the beach, when meanwhile it's packing and it's a galactic technology that's been here for ancient civilizations. Like, how cool.
Exactly. And all these pyramids are coming online. And recently I was up on Mount Kosciuszko, which is the highest mountain in Australia. Just by chance, I got back, and a few days later I was in the snow, after being in summer throughout Europe and in Southeast Asia. And it's like, okay, here I am. This is a bit different and random. But then I realized I was, on the highest mountain in Australia. And it was like, okay, what's going on here? So there was a golden pyramid inside the mountain. And then that connected to 7 golden pyramids that were in the summits of the mountains, which then connected to the 7 tectonic plates and the 7 oceans. And so there's a lot reconfiguring at the moment. We can see what's going on in Japan right now, that there's a reconfiguring of the consciousness streams that are coming through the Earth Mother's nervous system right now. And yeah, so of course my whole site blew out and went into a whole global thing while I was on top of this one mountain. But the pyramids are really activating, and a lot of what's activating at the moment is in the intraterrestrial realms of our Earth, the intraterrestrial stargates, not necessarily on the surface, but those gates and portals within the intraterrestrial realms are really, really reconfiguring right now in a big, big, big way. And with that will also come about the disclosure of the technologies that have been here all along.
Yes, hopefully soon.
It's happening already. It's already happening.
Yeah.
I mean, just look at the, what's going on. The interfacing of technologies, organic, inorganic, are hitting a point where it's going to be leveled up.
Yeah, it's really such an exciting time to be here, I believe,
Oh,
I mean, we've got
we've chosen it
right now. We probably paid a fortune for this in the cosmic change.
Yeah, I mean, when we go oh my God, it's so intense and this and that and the other, and it's like, well, we signed up. We didn't just get thrust here of our own, as some sort of, and it's not, like nothing's punishing us here. It's all for our benefit. This is where we have to understand that we are eternal light beings. So there is no beginning or end. There is no death, birth, reincarnational cycles. This is part of where we've been, like stuck in a holding pattern for a while as well in our consciousness. And we're freeing that up as well, which is really, that's what's creating the biggest springboard for us right now, is that we're recognizing that we've signed up for all of this. And we're moving out of holding patterns that we've given power over in our consciousness, rather than staying with our divine consciousness of knowing who we are and what we're holding.
Yeah, I love that.
That's all changing up now. And so therefore there's a changing of the guards, because it's like, oh, well, they got it. They got that lesson. They don't need to go through that anymore. You know what I mean? Like, they don't need to learn it in that way.
Well, I do believe there have been these kind of like consciousness traps in this reality a little bit with what we have chosen to take on and accept, as in the reincarnation cycles, as in, that we're here, these lowly humans rewriting all this karma that, we have to rebalance so we can move to the next level of our journey. I mean, none of that has ever really super resonated with me, because I think it's part of a story that we've sort of, as you say, it's to do with the level of consciousness that we have allowed that in to become what is dominating our experience in all of this, and it's just not true.
Well, in the galactic, the Earth Core oracles of Gaia Galactica and the galactic libraries, and just even with, in ancient scriptures, we can see that there are cycles, lesser and greater cycles of consciousness You know, in Egypt, they have the 5 cycles of the sun as consciousness. And we're in Kepa now, which is the rising of the sun coming into being again. And then, you know, in the Vedas, you have the 4 yugas, and we're in Kali Yuga now, and these are great cycles that go for hundreds of thousands of years,
Mm.
and within them there are different processes for staying connected,
Mm.
and there are processes that don't work because of the natural cycles. You have to work in with the elements you've got. You've got to work in with, you know, what's given to you to stay connected to source.
Mm.
And so they're just little tips and ways to kind of go, okay, you're in this. This is all going on outside of you, whooshing around. And this is what helps you stay in tune and on track. But they're not like the be all end all, just like the planets aren't the be all end all.
Mm.
The planets are there to give guidance and tips and tools.
Mm.
Nothing's set in stone, and that's the wonderful thing about us realizing that the stones are animating now, or we're reanimating with the consciousness of stones, because nothing is set in stone. And I give an analogy, it's a crude analogy, but let's just say you walk up to a vending machine and you put your dollar in, or however, whatever coins in, and you press the button and you wanted a can of Coke. Not that I would choose a can of Coke, but let's say you wanted a can of Coke, but you chose to press the button that was Sprite. And you go, oh my God, now I have to drink the Sprite, you know, when I wanted the Coke. But then you look around and there's a person behind you and they've got their coins ready to go and they wanted the Sprite. So they hand you the coins and you put the coins in and you get your Coke. Crude analogy, but when we get out of this notion, and it is a notion, that everything's set in stone karmically, then we can't be in the flow of consciousness streams to manifest and create
Yes.
what we want. Yes, we might take a wrong turn here, there, but we can get back on track. Nothing's set in stone. You know, in India, they say, you know, they're big on palmistry, and they say that if you clap your hands 3 times in front of specific or deities, your whole life path can change. So what is that? That's a frequency recognition of resonance.
Yeah, I mean,
Nothing set in stone with destiny, fate. It's all interwoven, and we're not that anyway.
mm,
We're eternal light beings.
yeah.
And so therefore when you know who you are, you know, then you start to become the master of time. You start to see that time is malleable, it's not set.
Mm. And this is where I think we are in this phase of remembering our mastery in all of this. Because
Yeah,
we already,
especially over time as an eternal light
that,
being.
yeah,
And you
exactly.
know, and
In multidimensional
and
space, remembering it, like, this is
and
what.
the stones are in suspended animation.
Mm.
And it was shown to me many, many moons ago that in this current mindset of consciousness that we perceive Genesis as a one-off event. Yet in the eternal light reality, Genesis is perpetually occurring. And that is all in our genetics. the way our genes control the tick-tock of time. And in the Egyptian reality, it would be Genesis would be gene Isis
Right.
in their construct of that.
Beautiful.
And this is the whole thing of like recognizing that, you know, nothing's set in stone.
So, in your perspective about who and what Earth or Gaia really is in this whole bigger scheme of things in a galactic unfolding, what or how would you describe that?
Well, she goes through donning different outfits and different consciousness changes herself.
Mm.
You know, we have Sophia, and we have Tiamat and Gaia, and we have all different, and that is all part of the greater cycles that she moves into these different realms, and she dons starry bodies and layering that reflects the consciousness of that cycle, that greater cycle or lesser cycle. And so, and as I say, because we're made up of the same elements, we move into a symbiosis with that, which is beautiful.
Mm. Yeah, it's interesting because there's all this information about where the Earth's chakras supposedly are and things like that. And I do feel like that may have been the case at a certain point of consciousness on the planet, but though everything has been going through shifts, changes, transitioning, energies opening up, I've found various portals and things myself that, gosh, I've felt more powerfully than any of these, bigger sacred, more famous sacred sites or, those kinds of things on the planet. And I think that for me is very exciting because anyone can
Yes.
find their own, little portals and things that want to open. And when your energy signature arrives, as you say, all you need to do is show up and boom, it's open and you can feel, see, hear, or know and whatever wants to engage with you in that space, which is so exciting. It can be anywhere.
Very exciting. And, there's a changing of the guards in a lot of the sites, particularly they're not meant to be there forever. And a lot of sacred sites, there's a changing of the guards and there's a transition of movement from one place to another. And that's happening a lot where there's a transition from one sacred site to another now. I've found that in Ireland to be true. A lot of the sacred sites are very tired.
Yeah.
So they're having a little rest, and other places are opening up according to what was there before.
Yeah.
Like, for example, when I was in Egypt in November, I was shown that the energies of the Giza Plateau were very tired. And I also got that the energies were moving to Fayum, which is a beautiful place. Very powerful with the water, the water consciousness of Egypt. And so a lot of, not everything, of course, but a lot of the information and the connectivity, is moving into these places that are holding the water gates of the planet, the water consciousness. We are the way of water.
Mm,
You know, we are, we are the water memory field. We are holding all of that within inside ourselves.
mm,
And so, yeah, there's a mixing it up now,
mm. Yeah.
which is really exciting. And yeah, there's a transition of the gates, moving to other points on the nodal axis. Still, some are going to be tributaries that are just going to take off some of the overload, and some are going to be transitioning, direct, moving over. And that's how it works with the earth chakras. Nothing's set in stone.
Amazing.
Yeah, suspended animation, it's
I love that
everything's been.
term. I've never heard that before, but it's so
I
perfect.
know it came to me years ago, and I just and now I am recognizing how suspended animation is playing out
Mm,
so strongly in just about everything that's occurring with this change over time on our planet.
mm. Yeah, wow.
Yeah, I have a lot of my own lexicon,
Yeah.
my own dictionary of words.
Yeah. I mean, I think also that's the thing about
Great.
this reality is we can tend to take on other people's definitions or terminology or whatever. And it is important to find our own in all of that. And that's what we are meant to be carrying, bringing through, is
Yeah.
not to be just taken from everywhere else. And
Yeah.
it is about spending the time, communing with these incredible star beings who are suspended in form, or showing up as these intelligences, wherever that may be, and ourself and the transmission through our heart to connect and unlock all of that in those spaces where we are intuitively called, as you brought in at the very beginning of this conversation.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And so, where's next in your planetary mission work that you are being called?
I'm being called to Java. I would be bringing a group to Bali, but before then, I'm called to Java,
Hmm.
particularly to the Mount Gunung Padang, which is said to be 27,000 years old.
I've seen about this. It's just sort of being
Yeah,
uncovered about the extent of that technology and what it is. And
yeah,
it's
yeah,
pretty incredible. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. There's an amazing team over there doing incredible work. Yeah, Dr. Danny is leading that that area of expertise with I mean, Java's just full of it. It's just unbelievable, unbelievable. So, yeah. And I have a family connection with all that. So
Huh?
it's going to, yeah, my grandfather, who was a self made geologist, one of my first gatekeepers for stargates, um, an old Atlantean crystal master. Um, he spent a lot of years in that area. So looking forward to connecting with that through the keys and codes that he's left through our DNA connection
Yeah. Wow.
as well. Oh, yeah, yeah, it's going to be
It's going to
quite
be
special.
very special.
Mm.
I love that all of these new places and information about them are coming to light, quite literally, for.
Yeah, everything's lighting up.
Hmm.
And
Yeah.
again, it's like the pyramids now all around the world are coming online, and it's not necessarily the known ones. As I say, these seven summits of the mountains, there's golden pyramids within them. There's golden pyramids within our earth.
Mm.
And so there's a whole lot of new stuff coming online with the technologies, the techno spiritual um, yeah, these innate gifts that we have to interface with all this and to work with it again in ways that, you know, defy the elements and defy them. You know, everything has to be reassessed with elements and molecules and the periodic table, all of it.
Mm.
You know, it's all being reconfigured now.
I actually feel like that about everything on this planet. Like
Yeah,
everything
yeah.
is
But
from
it
a
starts with that. It starts with that. Once we get back and stop being, you know, in the dark and in denial of how the elements have changed on our planet, and we don't have to wait for mainstream to catch up.
Mm,
They'll catch up through us.
mm,
So, yeah, and we don't have to wait for approval or, you know, those types of empirical sciences and religiosity to know what we know that we know. And there's some people doing some great work with bringing this to the fore now. And more the merrier, I say.
yeah, absolutely.
The first thing is to recognize and activate it from within inside ourselves.
Yeah, that's why I
And
called it.
then we can,
Crystals.
yeah, then we can interface with it, you
Yeah.
know.
Mm, yeah. And you have a beautiful relationship with star elders and a passion for star lore and that whole part of the beauty of your experience and what you bring forth. And what's been the latest, I don't know, wisdom that has come through from that department?
Well, the wonderful thing is that the true dragon mother has received her sight back on Draco constellation. And from that, a lot of pineal portals have opened up all around our planet.
Right.
And a lot of severing of consciousness, cosmic consciousness, is being brought back online through that connection with the Dragon Mother.
Right.
And that has been done through a configuration through Lyra and Venus,
Mm,
and so Venus Vega. A lot of configurations with Venus and Vega, Vega being the brightest star in Lyra, and Lyra being the mother codon of all galactic lineages and languages.
mm,
Lyra is the mother tongue. And so there's been a lot of emancipation, particularly in the lower astral around this, a lot of dragons being freed up. And you can take that as literally, if you're connected. Oh, sorry, that was.
mm.
I don't know why that's on, but sorry.
Oh, good.
Could have sworn I did that, but anyway,
Obviously, it's
apologies.
an
Um,
important point.
well, you know why? You know why? Because it's my mother, and I chose to come through the womb of a golden dragon. So there's the golden dragon ringing up.
Mhm.
And a lot of this is connected to golden eggs that are, well, they're incubating right now
Mm,
all over the planet. And there's been emancipation of the dragon clans.
mm,
And as I said, you can take that as a mythical thing or in an earth sense of the dragon nodes, meaning the ley arteries of ley lines and song lines all over the planet, or you can take it literally.
Yeah. Fantastic. How beautiful. Well,
So yeah, I've been traveling the last since March, pretty much nonstop, and working specifically, being guided with this connection and freeing up certain galactic connector points that have not been interfacing with our Earth star for quite a while in this way. And it's been quite extraordinary, actually, the whole journey.
mm.
Yeah, like I had to go to places just suddenly and get in and get out quick, and
Yeah.
it was just, yeah, it was very, it was quite something.
Mm.
But I can say I'm very excited for what's unfolding on the planet right now, and with the ease and the grace that it's happening.
Yeah, I
You
do.
know, people may say, but what about this and what about that? No, turn off the TV and get out in nature.
Yeah.
None of that exists.
Yeah.
None of that exists in the true earth reality.
Mm. Yeah, I love that. I think people,
Duck in and out, have a little look, duck in and out. I mean, it's hard to avoid. I mean, I don't have a television
mm.
per se. I'm not connected to TV or anything like that. I watch what I want to watch when I want to watch it. And it's okay to duck in and out, and it's hard to avoid when you're on social media
Mm.
because it's coming on your news feed. But even that, you can direct what comes on your news feed as well and what doesn't,
Yeah, absolutely.
and switch stuff off on your phone
Yeah.
that you get what you want to get. Um, but yeah,
Yeah, I think there can I have observed in people here and there and online and all of it, you know, the the handing over of the power, whether it's to the matrix or whether it's to the elites or the all the storylines and narratives that run around all that stuff. And I do find it kind of fascinating to observe how people in their own individual hologram of this experience, what they're choosing to explore.
yeah, yeah,
And it, even more interesting when that gets translated into people with a bigger following, which also I find quite curious. Like I'm like, this is
yeah,
so interesting how
yeah,
it's like playing out. But ultimately,
yeah,
it's everyone is in their own movie in this experience. Ultimately, we're all in our own hologram, having the experience that is right for us in that moment, and it is a choice. And if we choose to, as you say, spend time more here and in nature, than spending it in the many narratives and storylines that are playing out that you can easily get sucked into, you'll notice a huge difference in your nervous system and your emotional state and your mental balance and all of it. And that is therein lies the choice of being radically responsible for ourselves in this reality
yeah.
because it
Full
has,
accountability.
yeah, yeah,
That's what's required now.
yeah.
Show up,
Mm.
and catch yourself when you get into it. It's not to say that you're not going to get pulled into it. Of course, we're not, because we're compassionate beings and we want to feel into what's going on within the collective unconscious.
Yes.
We want to get a read on the field and feel into it.
Mm.
But it's one thing to get a read and get a feel on it and get pulled into it.
Absolutely.
And I say respectfully, I'm not having your experience of reality, and
Mm.
you're not having mine. Yet we can meet each other in the field.
Mm.
And if we can stay within that heart-field resonance, despite what we're experiencing in any given moment, and that's what I really encourage. People make the mistake of coming on my journeys and want to experience things the way I do rather than the way they do. And so I'm always bringing people full accountability and self-actualization, bringing self-realization back to self.
Mm.
If we were all doing the same thing, nothing would get done on this planet.
Yeah.
And we don't, it's full authenticity. We don't want to be imitating. I'd rather people stumble and fall all the way and be authentic than and not be proficient
Yeah.
at these things and remain authentic, because that is what's required
Mm.
to really show up on the planet now.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Mm. And as we start to bring this conversation into a beautiful completion, is there anything else that wants to come through for our audience today?
Um, I was feeling maybe to do a little, just a blessing.
Yeah, wonderful. I'd
I
love.
feel that we were talking about Lyra and the mother codon of galactic lineages and the mother tongue, that to bring a blessing through from Lyra.
Beautiful. Fantastic.
Okay. Um, just gonna. Maratukui. Uru barutoi. Makarutuku uyene hetea. Isayana harutuku. Paparutuku uira takaina harutuku usurutuki ea. Erutuku usuria. Naharutuku Rarutu Tukoyo tukohoro Mahara tuko o I tūru tuki I era tuka ara tuko Isaya na ara tiki iria. Usui ara ye. Pu. Mayo no horutu. Tua, tua, tua kuru. Aietu. Rishtakaya naharu iu. Vearu. Vuantu, vuantu. Vuantu koadiu. Oriu, Oriu, Baruyu, Suantamai Uroi. So the mood of this, or the translation, is that we are moving into our oceanic consciousness, riding the celestial waves, picking up along the way more and more heart codes of not just remembering, but the innate gift of who we are and what we're holding throughout all times, all dimensions, all space, and beyond that, what lies within these divine currents that we are riding, and that we are free to move and to express and to experience and to create within the divine codex of who we are and what we hold and what we're connected to as infinite, eternal light beings. And that the Mother Codon supports us in this. Not that we're receiving this from Lyra or the Mother Codon, but she's sitting in reverence of who we are and what we hold. Beyond galactic lineage. And she's allowing us to see her in her connection with this wave of currency with the divine. And that's what she's saying, like, ride with me.
Mm. Gorgeous. I absolutely love that.
Yeah, like as I'm riding, you're riding with me, I'm riding with you.
Mm.
And that's how it is. With all the solar flaring, the Schumann resonance.
Mm.
That's it. We're riding now together.
Yeah, that's a fabulous way to end. Thank you so much.
My pleasure. Absolute pleasure. I'm so, so delighted for everything that you are drawing to you now. And it is just incredible. And this level of stewardship, um, it feels so, so deep what you're holding there in this land and this space, and what you will also bring forth
Mm.
through
Mm.
this land and this omnidimensional space.
Yeah, I feel it. I
We
heard
know what's
people.
there. We know
I
what's there.
answered.
Yeah. We know the mirroring. We know the correct organic mirroring
Yeah,
of what is unfolding for you
yeah.
in this space. And it's truly glorious.
Mm.
And I thank you for accepting that stewardship, because it is not a calling that is taken lightly to be steward of such places.
Mm. Yeah, thank you for that. I'm incredibly honored and excited about all of it. Yeah, feels just like the most and profoundly aligned experience
Mm,
of stepping into the
yeah.
next level of service that I have come across thus far.
Well, know that what you're feeling, the land is feeling in equal measure. It's a reciprocal deal.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm just over the moon, excited about it and all the potential and possibility. And I hope
Yeah.
you're going to come soon and
I'm coming. If I'm invited, I have to come.
you are
That's my
absolutely.
thing. If I'm invited anywhere in the world, I have to go.
It's happening, I'm telling you. Yeah, I'll get back to you on timing for that. But so
Yeah, beautiful.
stand by, everyone. Keep updated on a
Yeah, thank you everyone for
event.
for
Mm,
sharing space with us, whether you're
yes.
listening
Thank you. Thank
in
you.
the
Thank
next
you.
little while or later. The coding is activating always.
Yes. Yeah. I love that. And thank you, Raeline, for all of your beautiful and incredible service that you do on this planet and for each and every one of us. And holding that space and being able to bring forth information and different verbiage that is going to connect with hearts and possibly some minds as well, on a global scale. And it's just such an honor and a joy for you to have been here with us today. So thank you again. If you've got any questions or comments, put them below this video. Subscribe to keep up to date and know when Raeline is going to visit New Zealand and probably come and we'll do some amazing work on this sacred land. So yeah, if you are excited about any of that, give us a shout out below and ask any questions you have, and we'll get right back to you. But yeah, thank you everyone for being here, and I hope you enjoyed this, the Inside Hustle interview series featuring Raeline Brady.
So much gratitude and love. Thank you. It's my absolute pleasure to
Yeah,
share and in this way.
yeah.
So thank you so much.
Okay. Bye.
Bye.